now joined by Senior Fellow at the U.S Studies Centre, Bruce Wolpe. Bruce, great to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Where are we at now with this? Has it set the U.S campaign back in terms of its goals in that region?
Well, what is occurring with the safe zone that's being created and the ceasefire and so forth and the diplomacy by President Trump, Vice President Pence, Turkey's going to get everything it wants. It wants to clear out northern Syria. It's going to do that. It wants to roll back the Kurds. It's going to do that. As you said, President Erdogan is going to meet with Vladimir Putin, and so they will talk about things. So Russia becomes a bigger player. Assad, the dictator of Syria, a mass murderer of his people, controls more territory today than he did last week. And ISIS may have a new breath of life. For Donald Trump, he signaled perpetually he wanted to end endless wars in the Middle East and get U.S. troops out. He got U.S. troops out. But the fact is that the reaction has been really terrible for him. The Kurds are an ally betrayed. And at home in Washington, the strongest criticism has come from Republicans who see these alliances that the U.S. has had as very important. Trump has just broken with it. And the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, had an op-ed in the Washington Post yesterday in which he said this was a grave mistake. Mitch McConnell has never criticized Donald Trump to that extent. So you have political division at home and an altered strategic reality on the ground in Syria.
So do you think then that Donald Trump has taken a political hit because of this?
I think he's taken a political hit. In Washington, yes. With his base in the rest of the country, no, because they see him as fulfilling what they want. And the American people don't like endless American presence in the Middle East. And when he says, I'm going to bring the troops home, the base says, congratulations, Mr. President, thank you very much. And he's had 3 rallies in the past week, and he's highlighted what he's done. And he's been very well received by people in Dallas and other places around the country. So Trump feels relatively secure with his standing in the country, given what it is. But in Washington, you had the House of Representatives pass a resolution where 2/3 of the Republicans voted against Trump. And the Senate is going to pass some legislation in the next week with stronger sanctions than what Trump has dreamed of. Does Trump veto that? So, again, in Washington, I think he has taken a hit. With the rest of the country, no. In the world, he has taken a big hit.
Let's talk about impeachment now, the ongoing investigation. Donald Trump's acting chief of staff is under fire now for telling an inquiry that America withheld funding from Ukraine and asking the country for a political favour. How damaging has this been for the president? You
know, these events happen and then it settles for a couple of days, then you reach a conclusion on it. This is seen as being really damaging because Trump kept saying, and he has dozens of times, no quid pro quo. I did not do anything for my political benefit in talking to Ukraine. The chief of staff has a press conference. He also announced that the G7 is going to go to a Trump resort in Florida. That set off another little to-do. But he admitted that, in fact, yes, there was a political consideration in aid to Ukraine. There's videotape of it now. And so to the Democrats, it means this case is now locked up. We have it cold. And this is a real issue. Mulvaney, the chief of staff, walked it back a few hours later, but even Republicans are very upset at what occurred here. So the president is in a weaker position vis-a-vis impeachment and the course of it over the next few weeks than he was 48 hours ago. And I think the position is irretrievable on this key point. And the rest of the evidence that the committee is gathering just corroborates what we've learned from the time that the whistleblower came out. There was a discussion. It was political in nature, and that was improper for the president to do. And that's why they're going to vote to impeach him.
Let's talk about an image that emerged this week of Nancy Pelosi. I think we do actually have a picture of this. Now,
let's pretend we're in an art gallery.
This is look, a picture says 1,000 words, as they say, Bruce. But here we've got a meeting that took place about Syria. Nancy Pelosi standing up, pointing to Donald Trump. Now, what I find most interesting is that he actually tweeted this photo out, but then she's now put it on her own Twitter.
That's exactly right.
What do you make of this image?
President Trump put it up on his website because, first of all, the White House released the image, and they released it because they thought it would benefit President Trump, and President Trump believes this absolutely benefits him. He's looking at Nancy Pelosi and saying, that is crazy Nancy, and this picture captures that. She is standing up, pointing at the president, saying, all roads from you lead to Putin. And so she is talking truth to power to the president of the United States. So she sees that as an advantage. But the two other interesting things, all men in the picture except for Nancy Pelosi. And look at the man on the president's right. He is the chief of staff. He is the head of the armed forces of the United States. And he is looking down because the army and the military stays out of politics. And he is actually ashamed to be listening to this political conversation talking about Syria.
He's got his head down.
He's got his head down. He wants to be, he'd rather be in Syria than in that cabinet room looking at this. And that's what's going on with this picture. And it's become iconic to both sides. And the president does say, it's crazy, Nancy, look what I'm dealing with. And Nancy Pelosi comes out and says he had a meltdown. So there you go.
There you go. It says a lot about her personality too, among a room there full of men, and there she is standing up.
But it also says this is where politics is these days.
Yes.
She is about to impeach him. He hates that. He is running for president. She wants to stop him. He wants to crush the Democrats. He says that she is a socialist and maybe with communists. And so, and this is a year out before the election. It can only get worse.
Well, it can only get worse, which is very concerning. Bruce, another thing that emerged this week, very interesting, almost like fresh battle lines before the 2020 election between two Democratic politicians themselves, one being Hillary Clinton and the second being primary contender Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes.
Now, Hillary Clinton said that she is being used by the Russians. This is fascinating because we have a situation where one of them isn't even running for 2020 and the other who is barely polling at 1%.
It's true. Tulsi Gabbard is sort of the America First candidate for the Democratic Party. She's for bringing troops home, and she's for more isolationist foreign policy for the United States. But she has a really strong social media presence, and so you know how the Twitter sphere works. A lot of conspiracy theories get going, and people are saying, where's all this coming from? And the rumor out is, and here we are on Sky News, peddling rumors, okay, is that that Russian influence is behind the social media campaign of Tulsi Gabbard. So what Hillary Clinton wanted to do, because she was a victim of this in the 2016 campaign, and there were certain fringe candidates that actually siphoned Democratic votes off in certain key states. And so she's calling it out and saying, we have to watch and see whether there's Russian money or others behind the social media campaign. Is Gabbard benefiting from that? In order to, you raise the curtain, the lights come on, it dissipates. That's what's going on here.
Just finally, Bruce, this week we saw a Democratic debate. Again, any front runners emerging from that?
Not Tulsi Gabbard, although she had her moments in the debate and people kind of liked what she said. Joe Biden sort of held his own, but not in a commanding way. Elizabeth Warren also did well, but she was challenged by Pete Buttigieg and other candidates, and she looked a little defensive. Bernie Sanders looked healthy, and he's out there. I thought Buttigieg had a really good day, and I think Kamala Harris had a really good day. So the race going into these last 4 months before the Iowa primary, the Iowa caucuses, those candidates leading, no clear front runner, and we're not sure. I can't tell you today who the nominee is going to be. Someone will emerge, obviously, by winning these races, but the race is scrambled, and Democrats still haven't found, the most important thing Democrats is who can beat Trump. And they still haven't found the candidate who can do that.